Good evening, I'm Andre from Adeon Technologies in Holland. Thanks very much, Steve, for a most entertaining opening as usual. Thanks very much, Bill, for allowing the stage with the ICT. Before I actually continue, and he seems to have escaped now, but when I entered this industry, and actually when I entered the UK industry, it was 1992, and before I was a dumb salesman, I was a dumb engineer. And I was introduced to my first customer in the UK called Forward Circuits in those days. I'm actually sort of like in panic now because the one I'm referring to seemed to have left the room. He has. Yeah, Pete. Has anyone seen Pete? Just nipped out. See, just when it gets interesting for Pete, he saw it coming probably, and he did the runner. Right, I'll continue with the presentation first. And I'll get him later on. Good. What we're to present here today is a new digital inkjet printing system, a Legend printer. Now, a Legend printer is been around for quite some time, and so has ours. We are just trying to defer. Did you really? He's taking his time as well, ain't he? Shh. Please, Mr. Starkey. Then I'd still like to go back to the initial start of this presentation before I start. As I was mentioning, before I was a dumb sales guy, I was a dumb engineer. And when we're talking about embracing new technologies, being enthusiastic about being capable of describing them, there's one person certainly in this room who I think has been contributing to this industry quite a lot and still has been doing. When I first met him, 92, 93 or so, he still doesn't know it's about him. That's good. He was running a factory in Tamworth, and I was really amazed in the way that he was always embracing and building and had built that factory around new technologies at that day. And if I still look here today in 2015, talk about embracing new technologies, I think the finest example for the UK industry, perhaps even a bit bigger, the European industry, is Mr. Peter Starkey, who is still here today embracing new technology, encouraging all of us. So if you'd like to join me with a big round of applause for my mentor. So Pete, you thought you were escaping, but sorry, mate. So the new digital printing, a lot of this circuit board manufacturers will already know. A lot of you already have started to use inkjet Legend printing systems. Our machine has been around for 2.5 years now, and we've seen that the standard still needs to be improved. So a lot of this will be known to you, that we have a fast setup time which is identical, typical for a Legend inkjet printing system, with a superb image quality. That isn't as automatic. It's been a long way. When you look at inkjet printing that introduced this industry, I was involved in the early 2000s with that, and at that time, in those days, it wasn't as automatic or as normal that an image quality would be superb, because inkjet technology, if you're printing on something like paper, paper says yes please, I'll have the ink, it'll absorb it, and it looks good. The materials that we're printing on say normally, no, I don't want you to be printing on anything like this without having a contact print. An inkjet printing is non-contact printing. Of course, we have your serial number, barcode, etc., reducing reliance on skilled screen printer personnel, which, as you all know, screen printing or any method of printing requires skilled operation. So we've tried to set the stones with to reset the goalposts a little bit with the accepted technology that we have today, by thinking, and as Steve is saying, how do we improve? How do we use something that is fairly new to this industry, still yet very accepted, but how do we make it better? And there you have to look at a few things. First of all, we like to believe we meet all the production needs. We have a lot of expertise since 2002. It's a proven positioning platform. Basically, we're using an old drilling machine. It's production friendly, it's reliable, it's easy to operate, lowest cost of operation. But what we're trying to do is to add new things to this existing technology. So make a machine more versatile. Now, therefore, we've developed in our system a way to work with different colors. Now, for everyone using an inkjet printer, desktop printer, printing on paper, you think, well, multiple colors, I can print any color I like, but not in an industrial way, not on materials that we're using. So introducing new colors is something that really means a lot of engineering effort for us in terms of if you look at the print heads, any print head now with nozzles that can fire 14 picoliter drop size, just throwing another color at it might mean you need a completely new recipe, new waveforms as we call it, to drive those heads. And those are always long and painstaking processes. We're therefore also seeking cooperation with existing ink suppliers to the industry, because you can't do it all on yourself. So basically, as what we're trying also is to embrace and to talk to many different people, because we don't have to reinvent the wheel. Everyone has their own solutions. We're just trying to bring everyone together and to come up with better solutions that are more cost effective. So our current system configurations work with white, black and yellow inks. And not only just the legend on it, as you'll see later on, we've embraced some more techniques with that. At the moment, we offer a two-head system with one single color, 4 heads with 2 colors, and we're actually playing at the moment with 4 heads for 1 color upon request. One customer that actually wants a higher volume, not that simple. There we go. Our system includes 1 speed setting. It's just fast, so that is a simple statement to make, but it's something that when we developed the machine, we figured we keep the operator in mind. When we talk about reducing skilled labor, that means you don't want the operator having to really have a study on how to set it up for every type of system. It needs to be really a push-the-button operation and to run it. So 1 quality setting, 1 speed setting. Our current times, load to unload and printing, is 32 seconds, including the auto alignment, including scaling, and et cetera. And printing includes dry cure for panel handling and turnover. So we do a UV bump on the fly as we're printing. And so far, this is all not very new. These are the dimensions, maximal panel sizes. We can have special size tables. We're also actually, interestingly enough, currently introducing a machine that can print up to 48-inch length. So we've got a longer size table. In fact, not longer. We've rotated the table and it's a wider table. But that's for a different industry. So all these are not really new. As I mentioned, we've got 14 picoliters drop size at the moment. Trend is down to 10 picoliters. Standard print for a Legend, a 720 DPI is normally enough, 0.5 millimeter text. We're using the accuracy of a drill machine, so that's not all that special really. And that goes the same for all of this. We can automatically add your serial numbers, but that's something that basically every inkjet Legend printing machine will do. Can apply different types of barcodes. We can put an X out failed circuit on a panel so that you can print a big cross if you want, if you've seen something that makes the panel as a reject, or a circuit within the panel that you don't have to put it through electrical test or AOI, whatever. And you can add, of course, some custom symbols to it. And also, not very new is what we're working with industry standard suppliers. Our machine works with Agfa and Tayo inks. We believe, first of all, we're a fairly small company, so developing an ink ourselves is not something that we would be capable of. So we really need industry standard accepted inks to work with. Having said that, it's actually something that you still need to work closely with the head suppliers, because the print head is of course a very important element of an inkjet printing machine, and not all heads just are open or allowed to work with every type of ink. So you really need to fine-tune the types of inks to the types of heads, and that's where we're slowly getting into what we've been trying to develop, because a big thing in there is print head lifetime. As all of you who have been working with it have probably been confronted in some way, shape or form at any time with a lot of cost on different print heads. So again, I'm not going to go too deeply into this. Where we are developing now is we're seeing a lot of different types of panels coming in. So we're not just seeing rigid panels, we're seeing panels that have a little bit of a bow, we're seeing flexible panels, thin materials, thick materials. So basically any machine, and that goes for anything in Europe nowadays, whatever we come up with, what we design, what we manufacture, needs to be jack of all trades almost, yeah? Because you guys are the same. You're all jack of all trades. Yeah, you have to be able to work with many different materials, many different finishes, and you can't have one machine for every type of finish or every type of design. Yeah, it needs to be able to work with different types of designs and structures. So we've designed this table here as well now that has, besides a mechanical clamping system, it can have a vacuum, which is an optional. And it sounds very simple, but you try to combine that in a very lightweight table that can move at high speed. You try to combine mechanical clamping and vacuum. It was quite a challenge, I must say, but I think we've achieved it with a table that weighs less than 7.5 kilograms in total, including the vacuum. So that's quite an achievement by the engineers. And really, some of the new things, those are the more important ones. When we're talking about being jack of all trades, we said, okay, we have this Legend printer. We started off with a white ink, and then we implemented yellow, and we implemented black. Currently, we're playing with blue, green, and red, and that's surprisingly enough not all that difficult. What we are working with, though, is, as you can see here, jack of all trades again. Some of our customers came with extremely high copper boards. So we have now, this is a board that has a 200 micron copper thickness on it. Yeah? And printing over that means, for us, we call it high copper climbing, because we really have to climb that wall of that high copper surface. 200 microns with an inkjet printer is like a mountain, trust me. And it also depends very much on the surface that you're printing on, so the type of solder mask, so everything needs to be tuned. But it's something we're working on quite successfully, and also therefore we were approached also by our head supplier Xar from the UK, one of the most renowned printhead suppliers I think worldwide, and we've really established an active working relationship with them in developing how their heads can be adopted for using different applications, for working with different applications. We've at the same time became a development partner for ACFA, where initially we were very close to Tayo, who were, I would say, one of the most accepted ink suppliers for inkjet printers. ACFA has shown a real serious interest, and they've been extremely supportive for us to help on new ink approvals, hence the different colors that we're printing with today, but also higher speed. The high copper climbing, but a very important one is here, the longer printhead lifetime. We now have machines in the field with Xar heads that have been running with over 2.5 years with the same head, and that is long to what we've seen and we've learned so far. A lot of the times we've seen 6 to 12 months tops, and then a head will give up for various reasons. And so being capable of expanding that to 2.5 years, that means quite a cut in costs for our customers as well. And we're building 3D surfaces. So with the newer types of heads, we are also working now with 10 picoliter drop size heads, so we can really start to work on building more 3D structured patterns, which means that if you go high copper, you can actually put down some sort of a deposit first and then put a second pass over it. And because when we print, we do a UV, we give it a UV bump on the fly. So within 0.3 of a second or so, it gives it an attack by UV so that it just stops the ink from flowing. Because of the higher resolution now, we can actually put a deposit down first and then print another layer on top of that, and another layer if we want to. Of course, there's a lot of testing still going on, but that's really what makes it a 3D printing. There you go. And some interesting developments that we've had recently with a customer in Central Europe, I should say, who came to us and they said, look, we do a lot of this multi-panel stuff, where we have one panel with maybe 6 different types of circuits on there. However, and these circuits, because they're different, they might even look different, but you know, we have to apply the same sort of solder mask to it. And it's fair to say that the legend printing, this is predominantly always your legend, is not designed to do a full size print. And it could do that relatively simply, but then you're talking about ink approvals that all the board manufacturers in this room will tell you. Your solder mask needs to really have a lot of approvals in order to, and your customer, the end customer, really decides what type of solder mask is used. So this customer said, look, it's very interesting, why don't we just try put a full solder mask, our conventional solder mask, over the whole panel, and you with your legend printer, you print on the circuits that we need to have black, you print that with black first, and then you put the white on top of that. So those are typical examples of new developments for an inkjet printer that we're embracing at the moment. Both of these actually achieved by a single pass operation. You can clearly see the difference between the green and the black. In all honesty, it's not perfect yet. We're still, I don't know if you can see it completely. There's other pictures to prove more of that. We're still trying to get rid of the optical effect of the stitching of the head when we do a full scale print. But here you see it clearer. You know, you have the black ink here, really printed over the green. So you see the edge definition actually being pretty good here as well. Of course, the legend being, you know, the white legend itself being very sharp. But that's something we've dealt with a long time ago. I mean, that's for us is a closed book. But here also very interesting. Steve is mentioning UV LED boards that he's manufacturing. You know, if you have to do that in low quantities, low volume, then it could be interesting to have your conventional solder mask on the board, and then we print over that a white, basically legend ink, but then in full cover, and then we print that, over that we print a black legend. Here's a little bit of a zoom in. And the effect I mentioned earlier is what you'll see here. That's where the heads are still, because this is only a 2 head per color machine. Yeah, so if you talk to Peter Coakley or the Camtech presentation that I will have to give afterwards, there's more heads in one machine that actually will overcome that problem immediately. What we have measured though is that it's hardly measurable, this striping. It's just it's an optical effect, but it still needs to be dealt with. But we're getting close. And this is if we do a single pass. If we do a double pass, the effect is actually a lot less. So here you see the difference. There's a single pass from the one you've seen before with the double pass. So there we have already achieved quite a bit better result in the end. Ideally, of course, we want to go back to make sure that we can do everything in a single pass. Okay, so therefore we're trying to reset the standard with this machine. using multiple colors, being very versatile, and capable of dealing with all the types of boards that you might have.